Okay, I'm back for the week. Sorry this one took so long. I had a pretty busy couple of days and I'm having a lot of computer issues right now, so future videos may be delayed, unfortunately. I did not care for Impact this week. Wasn't a terrible show. You know, the X Division match was alright. The tag team match was alright. The Eric Young Jeff Jarrett segment was really good and probably the best thing about the show this week. But overall, the show didn't do a lot for me because of certain things that I just didn't agree with, or creative decisions that I thought were mistakes, and other stuff like that. Samoa Joe and Kevin Nash in Lethal Lockdown, there was no reason on earth for this to be a Lethal Lockdown match. You could have made a case for it to be a normal Six Sides of Steel match, but half the appeal of Lethal Lockdown is that you only see it once a year. You start giving it away for free, and every time you do it, the gimmick is going to mean a little bit less than it did before, just like with all your ladder matches. And you can air all the video packages you want for this thing, but when you present it, just like you present every other Impact main event you put on, it's not going to matter. And by that I mean, you start the match at 10:50, and then at 10:52 you go to a commercial break, you come back from the commercials at about 10:56, and then 4 minutes later the show is over. It doesn't matter how important you say this match is. When you present it like this, you're telling the fans this match is not important because we don't care enough about it to give it the time to deliver anything. You know, you have Victoria, or Tara, I guess we're calling her now. You know, she makes a big splash in her debut last week against the Beautiful People. You put her over huge, and then this week she's in one real quick backstage brawl, and then you cut away to something else. So her momentum lasted exactly 1 week. Not a good way to capitalize on that at all. Another thing I don't like is the Shane Douglas thing. I think this is a waste of Christopher Daniels. He should be in the King of the Mountain match at Slammiversary, and instead he's going to be stuck wrestling Shane Douglas. And I don't care what he says about wanting a second chance like Daniels got. Maybe the reason you didn't get a second chance is because you peaked 12 years ago and you're 40 pounds overweight. You know, I don't know what the status of Shane Douglas is right now. The way I heard it, him and Raven didn't sign long-term deals or anything. Raven I'm kind of ambivalent on, but I really don't care for Shane Douglas if he's not going to get into ring shape. You can use him as a manager or something if you want to, but him as a wrestler at this point does absolutely nothing for me. We also saw the in-ring debut of Jesse Neal. They gave him quite possibly the worst haircut that any human being has ever had, and he comes out looking like he got dressed in the Lost and Found of the YMCA. You know, they need to work on that, seriously. And what they're doing with him makes me a little uncomfortable. Every time we see him, they tell this story about how he was in the Navy, and him and his friend had this dream of becoming pro wrestlers, and then the friend got killed in battle. I have no idea if that's a shoot or not. I think it's a shoot, but either way, the way they keep bringing it up like this doesn't strike the right chord with me. It feels like they're trying to like they're trying too hard to force the fans to care about this guy by trying to create sympathy for him in the same way that they try way too hard to force the fans to care about Jeff Jarrett. Because every time Jarrett feuds with someone, the heel has to bring up Jarrett's late wife and his 3 kids who have to grow up without a mother, and it comes off like them just trying to manufacture support for a character when the character should just generate it naturally. Now, you know, Jesse Neal's match got a good reaction from the crowd, and he seemed to work fairly hard, so this wasn't a dud or anything. But I just hope they won't turn him into that Jeff Jarrett type of character, because if you play the sympathy card too often, after a while the fans will start to feel like their emotions are being manipulated, and they'll stop caring about a character and start resenting him. And you don't want that. A little bit goes a long way with this type of stuff. And speaking of Jeff Jarrett, I really enjoyed this segment with him and Eric Young. It was my favorite part of the show, actually, because unlike a lot of the other stuff these writers have done, this was a great way to put a young talent over. You get, they let Eric Young do all the talking, they gave him an opportunity, he made the most of it, and he cut a great promo. And personally, you know, I'm still not sold on Eric Young as a heel. Not yet, but I think it makes sense to do this with him because it was set up so well, and not just over the last few months either. Because when you think about it, TNA has had Eric Young do some pretty ridiculous stuff over the years, and if they're smart, they can use that. And maybe they can play it like he never wanted to do the Super Eric thing. He thought it was stupid as hell. He knew he looked like an idiot, but he did it because Jeff Jarrett asked him to do it so they could get like more little kids to watch Impact or something like that. And maybe Jarrett promised to give Eric some opportunities if he did that for a while, and instead Eric just got buried. You know, they could play it like, hey, you promised to give me a spot at Slammiversary, and instead you had me go off and look for Elvis for a month so you could shoot some pointless comedy vignettes. You said you'd give me a spot at Lockdown, and instead you had me wrestle a D-list celebrity on the pre-show. And there's a lot of stuff like that they can use. You know, this makes perfect sense for Eric Young's character right now, and it was great that he said all that stuff about Jeff Jarrett, because I think a lot of people feel that way about him. And hopefully Jarrett will do the right thing, use this storyline to put over Eric Young, and not just have it be something to help his own character kill time until they start the Bound for Glory hype. Another thing I liked about this show is Don West, and I know I've been talking about this a lot lately, but I'm going to talk about it again. Whoever had the idea to turn Don West heel, give that person a raise. I don't know what happened to this guy, but ever since he turned heel, his commentary has gone from questionable to brilliant. He has become so entertaining, and by extension, he makes the show more entertaining. And a lot of the things he says really make me think that this guy has been a closeted internet smart mark for like 7 years, just dying to come out. I mean, just little comments like, you got to be Jeff Jarrett's friend to get a second chance in TNA, or the way he sells the whole Suicide Daniels thing. You know, and he does it without going over the top, too. That's the best part. I mean, his crush on Velvet Sky comes off as really funny, whereas Jerry Lawler's constant drooling over all the WWE divas makes him look like a dirty old man. So that's all I've really got to say about iMPACT. It wasn't really a bad show, but my main complaint is that we're on the road to Slammiversary, and it just doesn't feel like it yet. You know, I expect we'll have some good matches, but there could be some duds on there too. I mean, maybe I'll feel differently when the card is finalized. I don't know. Some people have asked me for my thoughts on the WWE product right now. I don't really have a lot to say, to be honest. I think I said my piece on that last week. I haven't watched SmackDown in a long time. I don't watch ECW. I still try to watch Raw, but they're making it really hard to the point where now I'm just half paying attention to what's going on. You know, I see Vicky Guerrero versus Santina, I change the channel. I see Goldust and Hornswoggle working as a tag team, I change the channel. I see Batista letting Randy Orton punt Ric Flair in the head because Batista forgot how to climb a cage for some reason. I turn the show off. I'm sorry, that shit doesn't interest me. I also had a request to talk about Terminator Salvation. I have seen it. I will not be doing a review video because I'm just disgusted with that whole situation. I think Salvation is to T1 and T2 what the AVP movies are to the Alien and Predator franchises. It's nice to look at. There's some really cool action sequences, but when you get right down to it, that's all the movie is. Action sequences were never what these movies were about, and obviously someone forgot that, be it the writers or Mick G or someone else, I don't know, but somebody really dropped the ball here. You know, in the first Terminator movie, the heart of the story was Sarah Connor and Kyle Reese. In T2, the heart of the story was Sarah Connor and John Connor. In Salvation, there is no heart. None. The script is just lazy a lot of the time. They make very little effort to make you genuinely care about anyone involved. There's not much character development, and there's a plot hole at the end that's so huge you could drive a tank through it. I'm not going to spoil it for anybody, but it is ridiculous what happens. Goddamn ridiculous. I really wanted to love this movie. I had hope going in, but as soon as I saw the opening title sequence go by, and I saw that Jonathan Nolan did not get a writing credit after all, then I knew. I knew it. I knew it was going to be bad. And that really makes me angry, because they had a lot of great talent involved in this thing. If you're comparing this to the first two Terminator movies, then you will be very disappointed. If you're one of those people who like T3, then you might like this one. I thought T3 was garbage, and I didn't care for Salvation at all. You know, it's fine for a generic sci-fi action movie, but compared to the original films, just like with AVP and AVPR, it's just not good enough.